Hi, guys. It's Mo in the deep end. And as promised, we are going to do kind of a retro react to a new case. Well, a new old case to me. But it is the Joel Guy Jr. case, or as I call it, the man that would not grow up. Joel Guy Jr. on November 26, 2016, in Knoxville, Tennessee, put in motion a plan that he had been working on for months. He had researched, created detailed plans of action, amended those plans, gathered supplies, even brought the plastic totes he would use to that Thanksgiving dinner. Joel was methodical, writing down all the evidence, creating almost a journal of premeditation, as the state is going to call it, loaded with notes of how to dispose bodies by submerging them in acid, but dismembering them first to make them fit in plastic totes. He was even to the point where he calculated out the weight and density of his parents' body, muscle mass, water, fat, that sort of thing. And in this notebook of, let's just call it all the evidence, he even detailed his parents' assets, how that would break down, what their debts were, different things that really showed he had put a lot of planning into this. And had he maybe just put planning into finding a job and taking care of himself, he wouldn't be on trial today. Well, 2020. But seriously, the man put so much effort into, avoiding growing up, getting a job, and not being dependent on his parents, that it's kind of remarkable that he even, pleaded not guilty. I That's kind of what drew me to this trial. This man left all the evidence, every single thing. So it really, I want to see, now that I've been in the law tube, I am not a lawyer. I am just a Mo on the internet, so this is not, legalese advice, but I do want to see now how the defense kind of even possibly characterizes the wealth of evidence that this gentleman left just everywhere. Now, the case did finally go to court in time of the great, unspecified illness of undetermined origins, in October 2020. But what set this complex and ultimately ineffective, plan of murder, dismemberment, and arson, to cover up the crime into motion was life was changing for the guys. Joel Sr. and Lisa Guy, Joel Jr.'s parents, had, thought about retirement and realized that if they downsized and, watched their budget, they could, in fact, retire to a house that Joel Guy Sr. got from his parents, I believe. Now, Lisa Guy was really only working to take care of Joel Jr.'s expenses. I believe he was in the sixth year of schooling. Y Y'all know the seven-year senior that, has not picked a major yet and really isn't trying to leave, he wants to be a professional student and just live with a hacky sack attached to them at all time, and, that kinda person. This seems to be kind of Joel, except that we will see in the trial, or at least it comes out, that Joel rarely left the house. Joel rarely interacted with his family. In fact, it was kind of suspicious and odd in hindsight that Joel came to Thanksgiving on 2016 in a pretty good mood because he was aware that his gravy train was ending. In fact, Joel was talking to his half sister's kids, gave up some of his beanie babies. Um, Joel seems to be slightly on the spectrum. He really doesn't do the peopling thing. He doesn't do, going out in the public thing. So his dreams to become a plastic surgeon seem a little far reaching and possibly unattainable. Uh, Side note, and this is just a Mo thing, but When we get to the court case, Joel Guy Jr. looks like Hannibal Lecter, but from the book. So short, squat, 6 fingers, odd magenta eyes, a deeply unsettling stare. So I was really drawn to this sort of very innocent looking person doing these god awful things. And at the time that this trial was current, I really didn't dive into trials that much at that point. I mean, I saw that chapter breakdown, but I really wanted to kind of go through the court proceedings and see where it is and how it was that the defense tried to do anything with this mountain of evidence. So I am going to pray to the internet gods, and we're gonna see if we can work this doggone thing. Hopefully, maybe, possibly. Okay, let us see.
Those folks that just took the oath, they're your court officers. Their primary job is to keep you folks taken care of, keep you separate and apart from
As
anyone
we can
else.
see, it
That means they
is
can't let
the
anybody
height
talk to you
of
about
the
this case.
COVID
If you have any
craziness with
cares or concerns
plexiglass,
during
masks,
the
and
course of
everything
this trial,
else.
they are the right people to go to. This is Officer Shaver right here and Officer Coker in uniform. Over here we have Officer Kerr in uniform, and back here's Officer Thompson. Uh, Now they cannot talk to you about this case. But if you have a question like what's for lunch or when are we going back in there, you can certainly talk to them about those issues and they can answer those questions. If you have a concern about the case, anything that's going on during the trial, you can relay those to them, but they'll have to bring that to me to address if I can. But they're the folks to go to if you have any concerns whatsoever. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is read to you some preliminary instructions. These instructions are designed to give you an idea
I
of the
think what
outline
I'm
that our
going to
trial will
do
follow,
is,
as well as an
fast
idea
forward
of what
through
your
the
job as a juror
instructions
will be and
because
what
they
my
are
job as the judge will be.
super de duper boring to me. So let's see if we can get to opening statements. Sorry, again, this is new to me, and I'm going to try
Allegations.
very hard to be very good.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, you're excused. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow.
Dear Lord, the
All right, ladies and
masks.
gentlemen, is the rural sequestration of witnesses requested. All right, if there are any witnesses involved in this case in the courtroom, Mr. McCord, your designated representative, detective, you may remain in the courtroom. Any other witnesses, you must be excused at this point. You may not discuss your testimony with any other witnesses. Oh,
I
and
think
family
this
members
is a
as well too.
fairly
So
common
nobody should talk.
practice to allow victims of the family or victims greatly impacted by the crime to be allowed in. If you remember, there was a giant hullabaloo about this with the Lori Daybell Vallow case, where she and her lawyers were being mega dicks and wanted to stop Kay and Larry Woodcock from being considered victims so they could sit in on the trial. That woman directly into a sharknado with lasers and then into a volcano. She is guilty, and I'm so glad, but let's stay on focus, Mo. Okay, I am learning.
Talk about any testimony that you hear during the course of this trial. And also, I would instruct you, you cannot watch any live streaming. If there's any live streaming from media on this, those witnesses are prohibited from doing that as well, too. All right, it is time for opening statements. Julian, may begin your opening statement. I would like to clarify that the family can remain. There are any objections, family members remaining who under the article for Victims' Rights Act. I can't remember what it is. All right, John, you may begin your opening statement whenever you're ready.
I will say that Nick Rekieta, and again, not being a legal person, has brought up that the use of masks during COVID may be something that defendants that were convicted could use because it does obfuscate the face. I mean, the jury can't really see micro facial movements or things like that. I I am only a Mo, but those are some things that I did want to note because again, we are in the time of the unspecified virus of unknown origins during this case.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and attention this week. I want to thank you in advance.
Also, she's not even wearing the mask correctly. Oh, dear Lord, I am so glad we don't have to wear masks anymore.
We expect to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that on November the 26th of 2016, Joel Michael Guy Sr. was viciously attacked in his home in the exercise room that he had upstairs. During
The gentleman in the very subtle face guard dealie is our defendant slash murderer, Joel Guy Jr. And as you can see, look, guys, I profile in Walmart, and if I saw Guy Jr. in the Walmart, I'm gonna guess he was capable of what he's capable of. But let's hear from this state what they believe he was capable of, and I'll try not to interrupt anymore.
this assault, he sustained 42 sharp force injuries. You're going to hear proof from the medical examiner and from a forensic anthropologist about these injuries. And what you're going to hear is that these injuries were so severe that marks were left on his ribs, 12 of his ribs, marks ranging from scratches to complete severing. The medical examiner is going to tell you that the cause of his death was multiple sharp force injuries that caused damage to his lungs, to his liver, and to his kidneys. He sustained a wound to his scapula, which is
I will be, doing another video. I will probably be on this trial for a while, but I will be doing a video of the police-sworn body footage. The scene was grisly, guys, so, um, content warning, if you don't, deal well with really graphic descriptions. I don't believe I will be showing pictures of this. I'm sure there is some dark corner of the interwebs where you can find them. I don't have any interest, but, you can. But I am going to say, warning, this is a doozy of a case, and that's kind of also what brought me to it.
where your shoulder is. And it was such a severe wound that a fragment from a blunt force instrument was left in the muscular tissue uh, next to the bone. He sustained abdominal wounds. So he was attacked from the front as well as the back. You're going to hear testimony that most of the stab wounds occurred in the back portion of his body. His hands were severed at the wrists. And you're going to hear evidence that there was a lot of blood staining evidence in this exercise room that indicated that there was a fierce struggle. In one corner of the room, there is blood evidence to show that there was thrashing motion. Um, and it left not only blood marks, but white marks and
So it is very clear that Joel Guy Sr. Was in a fairly good shape and really did fight back. I mean, his son unfortunately got the upper hand, but this might have been the first time in Joel Jr.'s life that he expended any energy to do anything. Um, Looking at sort of the background information, this Joel Guy Jr. seems to just be a slug, for lack of a better word. He's kind of just a lump. And if you will hear later that, he had this all planned, but it's really hard to plan the amount of carnage that he did and the amount of energy that it took uh, when you're super lazy. Man had never had a job in his life.
droplets on two walls of the room and extensive blood staining on the carpet. You will hear that he sustained defensive injuries on both of his hands, which indicate that he was fighting and he fought for his life. And his hands were sliced. And you're going to see photographs and hear testimony about the nature and the extent of these injuries. After he was murdered, the killer disrobed him. meticulously took off his
I don't know why the dismemberment, it doesn't bother me as much as, in this and the Chandler Halderson case, the thought that they nicketed their parents, I don't know why that grosses me out more. I'm sure I have tons of therapy required to understand why, but it does gross me out more than the dismemberment for some odd reason.
clothes, his shoes, his pants, his shirt and jacket, left them in a heap on the carpet. He left Joel Sr.'s cigarettes on top of the pile, and they were bloodstained. He left his hands in the room. At some point, Lisa Guy came home, and she too was subjected to a violent assault. And you're going to hear testimony and see proof of her injuries. She was stabbed 31 times, and she sustained serious injuries to her ribs.
And this is all because Joel knew that he was getting cut off. His mother was basically working to take care of his expenses. None of her money was actually going to anything for her, for, her husband, for their future. No, it was to take care of Joel. Uh, this guy can go with Lori in the Sharknado with lasers into a lava pit, as far as I'm concerned.
She had 21 rib injuries. 21. 9 of her ribs were severed. And you will hear a forensic anthropologist talk to you about the variation of the injuries to her ribs, indicating not just slice marks, scratches, severing, but also evidence that the sharp instrument used to stab her twisted into the cartilage of her ribs. She had one rib that was fractured from blunt force trauma, not sharp force, but blunt force, indicating that there was pressure applied to her ribs. And you will hear that most of these injuries occurred to her back. She had one injury to her clavicle and a stab wound, and she had several stab wounds to her buttock. You will hear testimony that there was evidence in the upper hall at the top of the stairwell from the bottom floor to the top floor that indicates that this is where her murder took place. Blood staining on the walls, drip marks, uh, marks that indicate.
I hate to keep pausing, but just hear the amount of evidence that this gentleman left. I understand that, reading kind of ahead, and this is an old trial case, that he was going to attempt to commit arson to the house, but the ferociousness and just all of the doggone evidence he left. He spent months, at least a good 4 to 6 months planning this, and he screwed it up so terribly, but he also never mind. Just go ahead.
A spray, perhaps. And like Joel Sr., her clothes were removed from her. They were cut off and left in a bloody pile on top.
That is some wild Buffalo Bill, Silence of the Lambs stuff to me. I don't know. I can deal with the dead, dismembered parents. It's the nakedness that just throws me over on that whole gross factor, which I'm sure says something about me.
Of a large blood stain on the carpet. You will hear that the scissors were found there, along with a knife. You will hear that there were also 2 knives left in the exercise room. So at some point, after Joel Sr. and Lisa were murdered, the killer went to work on their bodies. Joel Sr.'s arms, both of them, were severed at the joint, the shoulder blade. both of his legs were removed at the hip.
I do wanna take time to remember that, Joel Guy Jr. was in medical school, or at least pre-med, so practically speaking, he might have had an edge in how to dismantle his parents' body, things that I never thought I'd say out loud. For 200, Alex.
His right foot was removed at the ankle. And as you know, his hands, of course, were also removed at the wrist. Lisa had both of her arms removed from her torso at the shoulder. Both of her legs were cut off below the knee. Her right hand was severed from her arm, and the killer cut off her head. You will hear testimony from a forensic.
Yeah, this is the part where if you are squeamish in the least bit, turn back, do not go forward. This gets graphic, this gets even more so than what we've just heard.
Forensic anthropologist who will tell you that her head was basically broken from a part of the spine called the atlas. There was a blunt force trauma applied to her neck before her head was severed uh, from her spine. After the limbs of these people were removed, the killer placed them separately into two 45-gallon blue Sterlite containers. You will hear testimony and see evidence of where that took place. And you will learn that in the master bedroom of their home, uh, plastic sheeting was placed on the floor. And these blue plastic bins were placed on the sheeting. The killer put Lisa's body parts in one, and he put Jill Sr.'s in the other. And then he covered them with a
Yes, he doesn't
corrosive
look creepy
substance
and like a killer in the
and
least.
left them there to.
I'm just gonna clown a little bit, but I swear to goodness, I see this guy in Walmart, I assume that he's got at least 6 bodies buried somewhere. He is deeply unsettling even if I didn't know what he did. His affect is very flat. He kind of looks through you, which is, again, deeply unsettling. And if I'm a defense attorney, I'm going to be like, don't look like Hannibal Lecter come to life. For those of us that have read the books, not the movies.
Liquefy into some sort of diabolical stew of human remains. And then the killer took Lisa's head and carried it downstairs and took it into the kitchen. He got out a stock pot, placed her head in the pot, filled it with liquid.
What the actual shenanigans? I mean, the idea, the thought process, and planning you have to go through to have a even the guts to do this. I don't know, the desire to wanna so thoroughly destroy your parents who, by all accounts, and we will hear as we follow this case, were loving and to the point of doting. Lisa kept all of his toys, kept his room pristine. The fact that he gave away Beanie Babies on Thanksgiving was, just incredibly odd because he was very territorial over his things. Um, just it boggles my mind, and that's what makes this case so incredibly interesting to me because, again, if you're not me and you're not addicted to true crime, you see this very ordinary, very unremarkable man, and the fact that he was able to do something so depraved is just, very interesting, and I hope it's interesting to you guys. Uh, this is my first trying to do this recording thing. So hopefully, I'm not interrupting too much and I'm adding enough mo-ness. I don't know. Tell me in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and we will get back to it.
Carried it over to the stove, covered it, turned on the stove, and left it there to cook. So you will hear some proof from family members about this family. And you're going to hear this photograph was taken on the Thanksgiving day just before their murders, November the 24th. Photograph was taken by Michelle Dennison,
Okay, I guess no one
Joel
can work
Sr.'s
tech. Thank you.
daughter.
Good
And
lord.
you're going to hear a little bit about this
Let me
family.
see if I
You're going
can.
to hear that Joel and Lisa were very happily
What the
married.
heck is wrong
They
with
loved
her?
each other. They had Louisiana where he lived. He drove up the day before, November the 23rd. You're going to hear that this was going to be, and I'm not being smart aleck, I'm not, when I say it was going to be their last Thanksgiving in this home that they had on Golden View Lane in Knox County, because they were moving. Joel and Lisa had plans. Joel had worked as a contractor. He designed piping systems. Lisa had a job with Jacobs Engineering. She was a disbursement specialist, and they were done with work. Lisa had turned in her notice. Joel's contract was concluded, and they had decided to retire for a while. And they were moving. Their house was for
Those dang
sale. They had a
masks.
contract on it, and Joel was going to buy his family home in Burgonsville, Tennessee, in Upper East Tennessee, near Kingsport. And he had made arrangements with his sister, Robin White, to purchase the home. And this was going to be the last Thanksgiving that the family was going to spend in Knoxville. Um, their next holiday plans were going to be for Christmas in Burgonsville. They were ready, to move on and to enjoy what was left of their lives. So, I want to give you an idea of kind of a timeline for where we are this weekend. And you're going to see that the defendant came to Knoxville from Baton
Yeah,
Rouge
he
on
doesn't
November the
look creepy
23rd.
at all.
The family get together was on Thanksgiving the 24th. You will hear proof that on November the 25th, Joel and Lisa and the defendant drove up to Burgonsville to deliver a boat that Joel Sr. had, and he wanted to take it to the Burgonsville house. You will see and hear evidence that Lisa was alive on November the 26th,
Okay.
sometime after noon. We know that because of evidence we have from a shopping trip that she made in Knoxville. And we know that the defendant was in Knoxville on November the 26th, also because of evidence we have from a receipt where he went shopping.
Okay, yes. This gentleman, this well, let's just say galaxy brain, uh got photos of himself. Now, he was smart enough to realize that if he used his debit card with mommy's money, that they would be able to track the credit card. So this galaxy brain uses cash at, all of the stores. They have all of the videos. I know we joke about it. I believe Paul from reporting live from my couch, we talk about the Walmart murder kit list, but for the love of Cheetos, you all, I I cannot stress enough, do not buy your murder kits from the self-checkout at Walmart. He all the evidence. He just left every single thing, and The juxtaposition between how much he planned and then how much he screwed up is just chef's kiss. So much that, I'm glad he screwed up. I want him, inside the heart of a volcano or, pushing a heavy, um, rock just endlessly up a hill. I'm okay with that, but for the love of Cheetos, don't get your murder kit at Walmart in the self-checkout.
At a store, a Walmart store, and was seen there around 3:35. The evidence will show that Joel and Lisa were murdered on Saturday, November the 26th. You will hear proof that the defendant left Knoxville at some point on November the 27th, and you will hear proof that the guys' bodies were found on Monday, November the 28th.
He just looks like
So,
he could not be bothered.
how
Like,
did that
meh,
happen?
that's an interesting thing,
Jennifer Whitehead
but
is
eh.
a supervisor at Jacob Engineering. She worked with Lisa. They were work friends. They had a good relationship. And she's going to tell you that the week after Thanksgiving was going to be Lisa's last week of work. She was due to, I'm sorry I keep doing this, but I cannot. I'm having a hard time speaking.
Masks are
She
the
was going
devil.
to have her last day on Friday of that week.
Here is another thing that, both Chandler and Joel Guy Jr. failed to factor into their criminal mastermind plans. Their parents were dynamic people. They had their own friends, their own lives, people that would be worried about them. I don't know if it comes from their sort of very self-absorbed, self-satisfied kind of behavior, but they fail to realize that people sorry, I have a cat hole. This is Thor. Thor is a cuddle whore and will probably be in most of my videos, being rather whorish, if you will, and snuggling my microphone, please stop. Um, but that is always interesting for me to see, these man babies, these uh, family annihilators seem to not realize that their parents are, in fact, dynamic people with their own friends that might be worried about them as well, which is all to the good of us, but it's still something that I guess they just don't factor in.
And she didn't show up for work on Monday. Now, this was very unusual. Jennifer's going to tell you that Lisa was quite dependable, and and Jennifer was worried about why she didn't show up and why she didn't call, why she didn't text. She uh, she became concerned because she started to call her. Some women at work had planned to take Lisa out for lunch that day, kind of a going away luncheon. And this was highly unusual behavior. So Jennifer calls and texts multiple times and with no response. And she became so concerned and had such a weird feeling about it that she called 911 and asked them to send officers out to perform what we call a welfare check. And you're going to have evidence.
And for those that are joining me after watching the Brian Castiglione case or Castiglione case, um, this would be a proper time to call a welfare check, I think. The whole starting of events in the Brandon case seems a little bit interesting as to why you'd go to a welfare check kind of first thing off the bat. But this, a known person who is rarely ever late, doesn't miss work. You've tried to call the husband isn't answering. They're both, a little bit older. There's that, medical health worry about that time. I can understand why a welfare check would have been called at that point.
That an officer, Stephen Ballard, did go by the house on Golden View Lane in Knox County, and he went to check things out. He will tell you that he saw cars in the driveway. Um, really didn't see any signs of disturbance. He didn't look that closely. Knocked on the door, I think. Nobody answered, and then he left. But Jennifer wasn't satisfied, and she persisted, and she asked the sheriff's department, because this was in the county, to check again.
I would just like to praise Jennifer Whited. She followed her gut, uh, and called the police twice. I mean, she got the information that everything looked pretty much okay on the outside, but she followed that gut feeling and she advocated for these victims. And, kudos to her for following that and not being dissuaded when, an outside look kind of didn't show the horror on the inside.
So Detective Jeremy McCord um, made a trip over there, and he made a number of observations while he was there. He too noted that there were three vehicles in the driveway, two cars and a truck. He noted the for sale sign in the front yard, and he thought that was kind of significant because he had been looking at houses himself, and he noticed on the front door that there wasn't a realtor lockbox. Typically, that can happen when that will be present when a house is for sale. He went to the front door and knocked and didn't receive an answer. He knocked hard, identified himself as a member of the sheriff's department, wanted, to let whoever was inside know that he was there to check on their welfare. And when he was at the front door, if you will notice these, he was able to look in and see through the windows that there were groceries that were scattered in the floor of the foyer area. And that concerned him. There were a number of bags left in the floor. So no one responded to the knocks. And he decided to go around back. And when he went around back, he observed that the doorknob from the back door was missing. It's completely gone. And he thought, well, that's strange because the doorknob on the front door had looked sort of weird to him. It didn't look like it fit properly in the front door. There were scratch marks around it. And so he made the conclusion that for some reason, the doorknob from the back door had been removed and placed on the front door. And he just felt like something was wrong. He heard a dog barking inside. And
We will get to the body worn camera footage. I'm probably just going to make this video the state's opening statement and then, excuse me, go into the defense opening statement after. I don't want to make, hour-long videos yet while I'm still working on all this and my cat is being um, my daughter's cat is being a pain in the cat hole. But you will hear this dog. I think screaming is a very valid way. I mean, just wailing. Joel had initially decided that he was going to take out the dog with the family, but then decided not to. But he left this particular animal in a superheated house. He had both thermostats, I believe, up to 80 or 90, as we'll see in the walk-in. And, he left this dog without food or water in, I believe, the laundry room. So, as we go forward with this case and we go to the body-worn footage, you will hear this poor dog just wailing in the background.
he just kind of became alarmed, and he felt like there was a need for officers to go inside. He even called the realtor to try to figure out, what was going on. Those were their cars. The realtor suggested maybe looking inside one of the cars to see if there was a garage door opener that could open the garage door so he could get in. And he made the decision to go in. In law enforcement, this is kind of called exigent circumstances, and it means that there is a fear. the house in what is called a clear. They're clearing it. And he will tell you
Sorry
that they
about that.
entered
Technical boomery
through the
issues.
garage into the kitchen area. And he's going to describe for you the things that he found inside the house that were very unusual to him. I mean, other than the heat, which he will tell you was when they looked at the thermostat, the temperatures were in the high 90s. Okay, I'm not talking about a warm house. I'm talking about a hot house. And I'm talking about an odor that caused officers to have physical reactions to. Um, in the kitchen of the house, he saw things scattered on the floor, and he noticed towels and bottles of bleach and a bottle of muriatic acid and garbage bags. He noticed that the stove was operating and there was a pot on it. He noticed that the oven was on. He noticed that there was a cell phone on the counter, and on the kitchen table there were two wallets that were out. You know, that one looked like it belonged to a female. There was a picture, an ID of a woman on it. The other was brown, looked more masculine. A ball peen hammer and a vice grip, a lady's purse on the table. Um, it looked unusual to him. He kept announcing law enforcement, and he moved through the house. He went into the dining room, um, and there he saw weapons on the dining room table, boxes of ammunition in the floor. Um, there were tools also.
We will find out later that Joel Guy Jr. just simply did not think about the absolute force that was going to be required to stab his parents multiple times. And very often, when you are stabbing someone, you will end up getting cut, especially if it's a violent attack. So, poor Joel drove all the way back to, school, Louisiana, to get his little mittens, his little murder mittens fixed, and thought, quite naively that he could kind of put off this whole cleaning the scene up for whenever he felt like it because his parents, to him were now just ceased to be an issue. So it never occurred to him that other people might be worried that they were gone.
Also on the dining room table, a screwdriver and what appeared to be a lock set, another doorknob lock set. In the foyer, there were multiple bags from a Walmart that had groceries inside them, including perishables, things like ice cream, bacon, and sausage, the sort of things that one would you would expect that you would put away in the refrigerator as soon as you came home. Some boxes of beer. And as he went through the house in the downstairs, he just became uh, more and more anxious. There was a little study area, a den. The den contained the door that had the missing doorknob. There was animal waste, feces on the carpet, and urine stains. There was a heater that was plugged in and was operating at full blast. Uh,
We will find out that Joel is under the impression, and I am not quite sure, I am not a science guy, Bill Nye or otherwise, um, that Joel was under the impression that high heat would destroy fingerprints and DNA. Now, I am not sure about that they would basically almost melt fingerprints from the surface. It seems like something that you would learn on Doctor Google, but I don't know the validity of that.
and again, he noticed the thermostat set so high. He goes through the downstairs, and as he did so, he starts to feel fear. And I mean, he'll tell you, he's not ashamed to tell you, it was scary. He began to go up the stairwell, and as he was going up the stairs, he noticed that there were blood drip marks on the walls, and there was blood on the carpet. And I mean, at this point, he will tell you he knew that something terrible was wrong. And at the top of the stairs, he sees this pile of clothing, this pile of bloody clothing and bloody scissors and a bloody knife and a big blood pool. And he looks down the hall and he sees a pair of severed hands.
I know I keep stopping, but shout out to the police officers who go into these scenes. Um, I don't even want to imagine the scenes that, officers see daily, first responders, that kind of thing. But thank you. Thank you guys for going in and doing the jobs that, really give you a great big box o trauma that you have to carry. I personally appreciate it, and I'm sure a lot of people do as well. So thank you.
On the carpet in a room down the hall. And it freaked him out. His fear turned to horror as he continued to go through the upstairs, clearing, the dogs barking on and off. He goes into the master bedroom and he sees in the floor a weird assorted jumble of articles that don't even appear to be used. There's a bag of clothes, there is a work light, there's a sledgehammer, there's a portable heater that you can clamp on. It clamps on to a surface. There's a face mask that looks sort of like what one would use to do painting, a more protective mask than the one that I'm wearing. There's a blender and a box of latex gloves, a black garbage bag. A roll of plastic sheeting is on the bed, which is made. Well, it was made and tidy. And beanie babies.
He's like if Dexter was lazy and an idiot and left all the evidence. And Beanie Baby is probably the most disturbing thing of this entire case. Just a joke. If I have to get a sarcasm thing, I will get a sarcasm little sign. But yeah,
Pile of beanie babies on the carpet next to all of this. And other articles. I'm not sure that I'm remembering all of them. Bottles of food grade hydrogen peroxide, like jugs, big jugs. A jug of liquid fire, which is the drain opener. Uh, Back in the hall next to Lisa's clothing, there were three empty, big gallon, 5 gallon, I'm not sure how many gallon tubs of something called sewer line cleaner number 2, and an empty bottle of Robic drain opening solution. Um, that was in the hall. So back to the master bedroom. All of these weird, unusual products are here. And the master bath door is open. And of course, he can see what I described to you just a few minutes ago. And it's something he will tell you that he never expected to see. And he can't unsee it. Floor of the master bath coated in plastic, the same plastic sheeting cut from the sheeting that was left on the bed. A garden hose connected to the shower head, a heater running full blast, a knife in the sink, and the remains of what appeared to be human beings. At the time, Detective McCord will tell you he didn't know how many.
yeah. If you kind of dig a little deeper, the torsos of both the parents were in the process of liquefying. That's why the state makes a big point of, talking about the stab wounds in the back because I believe both parents' torsos were pretty well melted away, at least in the front. And these are only the wounds that they can sort of find. They are not the entirety of the wounds, and I believe they will say that.
Who they were. He didn't know what he was dealing with. And they continued to clear the house. And in nearly every room in the house, they find evidence.
All the evidence. This dude is like how to make a murderer or gosh, how to be a murderer, but he watched the, Cliff Notes, like, Daryl Brooks edition. I don't know that all the evidence.
I think there was one room that was used for storage that there was packing. People, you could tell that the homeowners were packing. Things were boxed up. I don't think they recovered anything out of that room, but there's a guest bedroom that they went into. And in that room, on the bed, the unmade bed, there was a laptop computer that was plugged in, uh, a used latex glove on the carpet. There was a backpack in a corner. Um, there was a bloody jug of the same food grade hydrogen peroxide on the dresser, along with a box of latex gloves, some credit cards that appeared to be issued to Joel Sr. Um, Other articles, blood staining, blood staining on the carpet and a blood stain on the sheet, I think. Um, there's a bathroom upstairs in the hall, sort of a guest bathroom. But I forgot something important in the guest bedroom. There were two blue tote lids that corresponded with the blue
This prosecutor's like me. I take my notes and I get halfway through and then I'm like, "Oh, crap. I forgot this thing, and it's really kind of sort of important. So let me backtrack 2 seconds." Mr. Moe is used to it, but telling a linear story, that's for, normal people. We tell nebulas of stories.
blue plastic bins that were in the master bathroom. The lids, two lids for these were found. One propped up next to a suitcase that had some rumpled clothing in it, and also one under the bed. So the tote lids that corresponded to the tubs in the master bath were in the guest bedroom, along with a note that was in the suitcase uh, that mentioned a store, had the address of a business in Louisiana. I love this name, Dan Boudreaux's Ace Hardware in Napoleonville, Louisiana. So that note was in the suitcase in the guest bedroom. So they move on to the guest bath, and it's a mess. There are blood stains everywhere on the door, on the floor, on the sink and the counter. There's a pile of clothes, like some shorts and a t-shirt and underwear
Play it through. How did this guy think this was going to work out for him? I don't get it. I know he planned to start a slow burning fire, and hopefully arson would have cleaned all this up, but just make it make sense. Make it make sense. This does not. You leave all the evidence. Your parents are obviously going to be, found missing. And then when the fire burns everything, they're going to be found, the little bones are going to be found in pieces with stab wounds on them. Duh, never mind.
that have some blood staining on them in the floor, uh, used latex gloves scattered on the countertop, a knife on the counter, uh, bottles of rubbing alcohol, a couple of bottles of those, a couple of bottles of hydrogen peroxide, some medical tape. Looked like someone had treated an injury there. Okay, blood
Yeah, poor Joel, his murder mittens got pretty cut up. I'm not feeling too terribly sad for him, believe it or not.
staining everywhere, and some other first aid supplies. And also on the counter, there's a Walmart bag that contains a receipt, and uh, and that receipt depicts the products that were found in the room, and that receipt depicted a date.
We don't Walmart our murder materials. Say it with me again, class. We do not self check out. Murder materials.
November the 26th, 2016, and it depicted a time, 15:35:25, 3:35 p.m. And as if all of those discoveries weren't bad enough, go back downstairs after they've gotten rid of the dog that was locked up in a laundry room, stifling heat. They get
I do believe the dog is okay, and one of the daughters of Joel Guy Sr., Joel Jr.'s half sisters have taken over care of the dog, as far as I know.
someone to take care of the animal, to get it out of the house, and to be treated. Um, I don't know, animal rescue, the Humane Society. He was animal control, I guess is what it's called. But they go back down to the kitchen, and
Those are some Manson lamps right there. Those eyes see through you, and he is a creeper.
they open the lid on the pot on the stove, and they discover a human head. And they will later learn that that's Lisa Guy's head cooking.
And, the jury says, "Your Honor, we need nothing else. Mom's head in pot, we're done. Thank you."
Still simmering. The stove was still on.
Now I'm never gonna be able to use the word simmering again. Dear Lord, stop watching trials because storm and simmering are now terribly, terribly and jump to conclusions are now intrinsically linked to trials.
So uh, Detective McCord and the other officers there, they realize this is a monstrous crime, okay? They're feeling some sense of urgency now to figure out who did this. And they have to take steps to figure out how in the world, what are we going to do? How are we going to solve this? So they do what investigators do, and they interview people. They do a neighborhood canvass. They talk to people in the neighborhood to try to figure out when the guys were last seen, who may have been at the house. They notify next of kin. They discover from Michelle Dennison that she was just there, that she was there on Thanksgiving, that her half brother, Joel Jr., Joel Michael, they call him, was there. Uh, he gets a description of vehicles. He gets he really he gets on that receipt from Walmart. And when he goes to Walmart to check this out, he's able to talk to someone there who is kind enough to cooperate, and they give him video. They maintain security footage at the stores because of shoplifters and for business purposes. And so Detective McCord is able to that very day, the 28th, get a get a video image and a still shot of the person who made that purchase. And he is able to have that person who's depicted in that image identified as Joel and Lisa's only son, Joel Michael Guy, the defendant. And they get an arrest warrant based upon this information and other information.
Just all the evidence. I will be quite interesting to see the defense, do whatever they're going to do or however they're going to try to do it, uh, in the next episode of this, Joe Guy Jr. trial review. I'm trying to keep the videos relatively easy to listen to slash, do stuff while you're in the background. So hopefully, these are in pretty much bite-sized chunks. I'm going to finish up this opening if she ever finishes up.
Uh, One of the things that greatly concern them is that in this image that they saw at Walmart, the defendant is his hand is bandaged, okay, and he's buying medical supplies, and he's not
Yes, his murder
there. And
mittens
they've
got
received
hurt.
information that he has gone back to Louisiana, back to Baton Rouge on November the 27th. And so, based upon that and other evidence, they get an arrest warrant, and they enlist the assistance of law enforcement officers from the Louisiana State Police, the FBI, and the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office. And all of these agencies work together, and the defendant is arrested, I believe, on November the 29th of 2016. And you will hear testimony from people who saw him there, who will tell you that his hands were sliced. He had a couple of cut marks on his hands. So you will hear that all of the evidence in this case we submit to you points to the defendant as the killer of his parents. And one of the things that we consider in this calculation is, the times of death. The medical examiner and Dr. Marks, the forensic anthropologist, can't tell you how long Joel and Lisa were in those, how long their body parts were liquefying in those tubs. They can't make that determination. But we do know certain things.
Sorry, trying to deal with a cat hole.
We know from receipts found in Lisa's belongings where she was on November the 26th, and that she was alive at some point. And we know that from a receipt found in her purse at the scene, that she was at this Walmart in Turkey Creek at 12:18 in the afternoon, making the purchases of the items that were found in the foyer. Okay, the receipt, they were able to match up the items listed on the receipt with things that were in the foyer floor. We know that before that, she had gone to PetSmart in Turkey Creek, in the same little shopping center, to get dog food for her dog. And this is a map, an aerial map. Right up, you'll see right up there in that corner. That's Golden View Lane, that little red circle.
Oh, for the
That's
love
how
of
close they
Cheetos.
live to. This is the Turkey Creek Shopping Center. There's
Their
the
tech
PetSmart.
is just about as good as my technically. Oh,
Here's a close.
all right. Let's see if we can.
Now we know he went back to the house, right? We know he went back to the house because the things that he purchased at Walmart around 3:35 are on the bathroom counter. And I want you to look at these. So here's the receipt again. And here's the bag that the receipt was in.
Oh,
Here's
for
a knife.
goodness sake.
We will prove to you that the defendant had a plan to do this, that this was not a spur of the moment decision. He had a plan. And
This is where we get into the murder journal, or the plan of, what is it? The book of premeditation. Uh, just like Letitia had Google, Dear Diary, and, you know, Joel had a notebook, so at least he didn't ask Google about it.
And that is known as premeditation sometimes. Planned in advance. He premeditated. He made, after the exercise of reflection and judgment, made the decision to murder his parents. So in the guest bedroom, where you will hear, Michelle Dennison will tell you that that's where the defendant was staying on Thanksgiving. You're going to see that there's a backpack found in the corner of the room. And it was taken into evidence and later inventoried per the policy of the sheriff's office. That's what they have to do when they seize evidence, something like that. They inventory the contents of it. And here it is. And they opened it, of course, and they found instruction manual for residential hot water heater. They found some books, and they found
It was speculated that in addition to kind of rolling kerosene around and, doing some, I guess, vague arsonry tricks, he was going to try to use the water heater to be the point of origin of the arson that he had planned to use to cover up this crime.
the notebook. And in the notebook, there was a writing, and I want to go through it with you a little bit because it's kind of hard to see like this.
Yeah,
But we'll
this guy
start from the
has,
first line.
worse handwriting than I do, and
Get
I
killing
have
knives,
terror bad handwriting.
quiet, multiple. Get carving knives to make small pieces. Get sledgehammer, crush bones. And of course, there were multiple knives found at the scene. You will hear there was a knife in the guest bathroom, a knife in the sink in the master bathroom. There were two knives next to.
I feel like maybe staying on him for as long as they do, he's just so flat. I mean, he looks almost bored being there, and that damn face shield. He already looks sinister, and, deeply unsettling, but let's add the face shield. It's like the cone of shame. Actually, can we get him a cone of shame? Because I want to see Joel Guy Jr. in the cone of shame.
The pile of bloody clothes that belonged to Joel Guy in the exercise room, and then there was a bloody knife next to Lisa Guy's um, cut up clothing. There is no evidence that he used the knives to make small pieces other than the hands and head, or that he used the sledgehammer to crush bones. You will not hear evidence of that. Bring blender and food grinder, grind meat. Well, we will
Yeah, the meat would be his parents. In the center of the earth with this dude, I just can't.
not show you that he did grind any meat, but we will show you that he brought a blender and that in his vehicle that was searched after his arrest in Baton Rouge, he did have a food processor in the trunk.
I will never be able to use my KitchenAid again without thinking of this case. Thank you, Joel.
Get bleach, denature proteins. Well, there was bleach, several tubs of bleach in the kitchen. Get plastic bin for denaturation process. And I guess that means for dissolving your parents. Does not matter
I love this state. I guess that's just well, we don't know what the technical term, but I guess dissolving your parents.
where they're killed. Just get rid of bloody spots to prevent evidence of time of death, not the mattress or couches. Get rid of bodies inside the house, there and my DNA already there. Because, of course, he had been visiting, so his DNA would be in the house necessarily. I guess that's what that means. He needs to be, I can't read that word, not intruder. Flush chunks down toilet, not garbage disposal.
Hashtag, we need to see this guy's Google search history because beyond tentacles and other things from Japan, I'm sure, we will find. I don't even want to know how you would Google search this BS.
No evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that he did that. Uh,
That's work. Joel doesn't do work.
but the next line, get plastic sheeting for disposal process. There is evidence that there was plastic sheeting at the scene on the bed where Joel and Lisa Guy slept. Get hollow point bullets just in case. Will be seen buying bullets. Just use computer room gun. Check to make sure there are bullets. Last resort. There were no gunshot wounds to the victims. He's not alive to claim her half of the insurance money, all mine, $500,000.
Motive for 800, Alex. I'll take a motive for 800.
You will hear evidence through Jennifer Whitehead and through documents from Jacob Engineering that Lisa Guy did have an insurance policy. Uh, she was going to be employed until the following Friday after Thanksgiving, and you will see that he was a beneficiary, in fact, to this life insurance policy. Flood the house, covers up forensic evidence. No evidence that he flooded the house. Turn heater up as high as it goes, speeds decomposition. Again, uh, thermostats were in the 90s, both upstairs and downstairs. Bleach reacts with luminol, just like blood. Douse area with bleach. Big sprayer. There was a big sprayer in a box on the kitchen floor. I don't know that it had been opened, and I can't tell you that the state will prove that there was evidence that he doused the area with bleach. But there was lye, and he mentioned, it says trash compactor, question mark. The next line is body gives time of death, alibi. Don't have to get rid of body if there's no forensic evidence on the body. His fingerprints and DNA. And that brings us to the severed hands. The severed hands.
Joel, I believe, originally tried or was going to try to frame his father in kind of a murder suicide. Um, I don't know why he would want to implicate his father, but that is the general theory that that was one of the things that he was going to try to do.
We believe the state will prove to you that the hands were severed for a purpose. Okay? For a purpose. There's a reason behind it. Minimize, and we're on to the second page of the notebook. Minimize things I touch throughout the visit. Wear gloves and socks to prevent fingerprints and footprints. And as I said, you will see photographic evidence that there were gloves, latex gloves, found throughout the house, boxes of them, in his bedroom, in the bedroom that he was using in the house, in the master bedroom, in the kitchen, in the guest bath. Drop something down the garbage disposal to break it. Get him on the ground. Get him on the ground.
Yeah, so Joel intended to attack his father when he was laying down under the sink. And I guess to Joel's utter consternation, when the disposal broke, Dad said, "Fix it your daggone self. You're nearly 28. Uh, God gave you hands. You don't melt." So there is that plan just scarpered. He could not attack his dad when he was down, so he attacked him in the workout room, and Joel Sr. fought fiercely.
Fixing it. Kill him with the knife. Clean up mess from him before she gets home. Kill her with knife. Kill the dog after, and that's marked out, and above it, leave him alive. Fingerprints. Take dog with you. I don't know what this says. First word I don't understand.
I love that Joel is also confused. Like, this is your murder book, sir. I need you to know your own ridiculous penmanship.
Him with him is all I can read. The next line is place her in shower, turn on hot water, and point at her to get rid of forensics. Remove her clothes and take them with me for disposal.
Again, the additional creepy factor of him touching her clothing and getting her naked. I I can't, guys. I really can't. I don't know why this creeps me out so much, but it really does. I I'm sure I'll talk to a therapist about it one day.
And you know her clothes were removed. Place him in plastic bin and use it to get him into the upstairs bathroom. Well, uh, Mr. Guy's remains were certainly found in a plastic bin in the upstairs bathroom. Cut off his arm and plant his flesh under her fingernails. And I will remind you that Lisa Guy's right hand was severed from her arm. Place her hand with his DNA so that his DNA is not washed away by shower. Use sodium hydroxide. You'll hear evidence that the sewer line cleaner and other products, that's sodium hydroxide. Use sodium hydroxide to destroy his soft tissue and his softened bones for transport.
Dear Lord, this man was going to transport the bones somewhere. J All of the serial killer, I mean, I need him on a dolly with the face guard and full Hannibal Lecter wear. This sir is just nope, I need the straitjacket, I don't care about, prejudicing the jury. This dude is off the chain crazy. But not legally, just like, he knew what he was doing. I mean, to the nth degree, the man knew what he was doing.
Based once every hour to accelerate.
Based I Now I can't have turkey, damn it.
Flush sodium hydroxide down the toilet. Wash out bin with handheld shower head and then direct handheld into toilet to flush everything out of the pipes and into the public waterway.
Well, there goes tap water.
Douse killing rooms, kitchen, with bleach. Place hair curler with flammable paper and flammable containers of gasoline in 4 locations. His killing room, her killing room, his bathroom, her bathroom. Wipe down areas near killing rooms and bathrooms. Turn heaters up to 90 degrees to melt fingerprints.
I like how he's looking at it like, did I miss anything?" It's almost like he's going to correct her if she misses a step. He's just so incredibly unsettling.
And dry everything. Set her phone to send me a text message late Sunday to prove that I was in Baton Rouge and she was, in quotation marks, alive.
And I would have gotten away with it had I cleaned my, scene and taken my murder notebook with me.
Leave through front door and wipe down doorknobs. Timer for flammables set for Friday at 10 a.m. Sunlight masks fire, but not smoke. Everyone at work, so they can't report it. This is an enlargement of what is on this page. Ultraviolet light shows fingerprints.
They have embiggened it.
Check mail before leaving. To get rid of blood, use peroxide, hemoglobin, and bleach, DNA. Destruction of bodies.
I love that he, like me, the obsessive note taker, has different subcategories of my to-do list. Um, I do. I have to-do lists every day, and I do kind of subcategory them between, like, what is for the children, what are my goals, what are things that need to be done for the full week. I may be slightly obsessive.
Composition of body, 20% fat, 20% protein, 55% water.
The dude even mathed. If you mathed and you're still this terrible,
And 5% other components. Assets. These pages will show you that the defendant analyzed the financial assets of his parents. Her assets, her life insurance, 500,000, possibly more with double indemnity. With him missing, dead, I get the whole thing. All her other assets are joint. Go to him if missing, unknown if he's dead. His assets includes all joint property if missing. When he gets all joint property, also gets joint debt. Knoxville house,
Dang debt gets us all in the end.
homeowner's insurance, possibly, but probably worthless after the fire. Oh, $100,000. Sirgoinsville house, appraised at 400,000 plus, worthless with Renee on the property. You will hear testimony that Renee Charles is Joel Guy Sr.'s sister. His sisters live in the Sirgoinsville area. Her car, his SUV, not paid for. His boat, his old truck, paid for. His 401k, $80,000.
Dude did like actual investigational homework about his parents' assets and liabilities, and yet still sucked so very badly in executing. Goes to show that you can plan a lot of things on paper, but the actual doing of them is hard. Hashtag me in the morning doing a workout.
Possibly less after taxes. He could possibly have savings and or other investment accounts. So we believe that the proof will show you, ladies and gentlemen, that the motive in this case is not an element of the crime, but the motive is financial. Money, all mine, $500,000. I get the whole thing. There are 2 counts of
Yeah, it's not looking very good for you, Joel. But that face hasn't changed, so I don't know. I'm sure you're shaking on the inside or hearing the Hannibal music. I'm not quite sure.
3 counts actually of felony murder involving theft, the theft of property, and we expect to provide testimony that certain financial transactions were made with the guy's assets after the time of their deaths on November the 27th, and other articles of their
Yeah, dude used so dad is naked and decomposing in a plastic tub. Dude uses that time instead of cleaning to pay forward his, I believe, rent and tuition for like the next year and a half. And I'm shocked because anytime we use our credit card for anything over a certain amount, we get a call. I can't imagine that tuition for a year and, um, a year-long rent lease would be terribly inexpensive and would almost require them to call, in my opinion.
were taken, and we believe that proof will show just what was taken from them. You're going to hear from expert witnesses, as I alluded to, or as I said in earlier. You're going to hear from a DNA expert who will talk to you about the DNA evidence found throughout the house. Uh, you know, uh, she's going to tell you exactly where she found the defendant's DNA, certainly on the latex gloves, on some.
Can we just say all over? I'm going to maybe speed this up just a little bit because this is almost a 2 hour and 30-minute video, and I don't want you guys. I I don't know how a long video is going to translate, so I'm speeding her up just a bit. I also would like to have lunch at some point, and I'm getting kind of hungry, to be honest. So, truth in
Some of the
advertising,
weapons. And of
and
course,
she
the
talks
DNA of Joel
fairly
and the Lisa
slow.
guy were found throughout the house and on a lot of the blood evidence. Not all DNA evidence is blood evidence, of course. And she will explain all of this to you. That's Agent Kim Lowe. Then you will hear about the autopsy of Joel Sr. and the autopsy for Lisa. Dr. Amy Hawes with the Forensic Center in Knox County is our expert witness in that area, and she will testify to you about the cause and manner of death and you will see photographic evidence, and you'll see diagrams, and she will be able to better explain to you than me what exactly happened to them. And again, you're going to hear from a forensic anthropologist, Dr. Murray Marks, with respect to the injuries to the bones of both Joel.
These are definitely ones that I do wanna cover, but I will probably have a warning, because it's going to get gruesome, with that testimony, so I will try to have a little warning and, try to remind you guys before I just jump into that testimony.
And Lisa, Joel was identified by fingerprints because we had his hands, and Lisa was identified by dental records. And Dr. Marks will describe for you and show you images of the damage that was done to their bone structures, and explain the difference between dismemberment and disarticulation. And he will he will be one of our expert witnesses. You will also hear expert testimony on with respect to fingerprints and electronic devices that were examined by Eddie Wassman with the sheriff's office, and Tom Finch, who did the fingerprint evidence.
Well, holy cow, the state doing a cell phone record thing. Again, I'm going back to the case that we're currently watching in the MLS show Discord, the Brian Castiglione case, where they didn't actually check the defendant's phone for anything, but relied heavily on the victim's phone info.
So, other than the felony murder counts, the premeditated murder counts, the felony murder counts, Mr. Guy is also charged with 2 counts of abuse of corpse. Um, I don't think we need to belabor that.
You could have just said he put his mom's head in a pot and decided to baste his father.
And you will hear evidence of flight. And the court will give you an instruction on what flight means and how you can judge it with respect to the with respect to this case. But the evidence we submit to you will show that after killing his parents and dismembering them and trying to destroy evidence of his involvement at the scene, he left, went back to Louisiana.
His murder mittens were hurt, ma'am. He had to go to Louisiana.
Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that at the end of our proof, at the conclusion of everything, turn it off, you will find Joel Michael Guy Jr. guilty of every count of this indictment, because we will have proven it to you beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, guys, that was the opening statement for the state. I am going to just put this up. I hope you liked it. If you have any suggestions of things you would like to see in this particular case or have me go over, please leave them in the comments. Let's see, like and subscribe, please. And um, I'm new. I'm trying this. I hope that this will, go out without any hiccups, but if not, I will work on it and it should be getting better. I'm going to learn how to do clips and everything. So I hope you have a wonderful day and I will get started on the defense opening in just a little bit.